Hi, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about 6.2, which is comparing and ordering fractions, decimals, and percents. So before we start, I want to make sure you all have your math composition notebooks out. You have a writing utensil and you're ready to write. And make sure that everything that is on my screen, you are writing down in your math notebook so that you have it. Okay, so to begin, let's write the learning target, which is I will be able to compare and order fractions, decimals, and percents. So make sure you have that down and let's get started. So this is our golden rule for comparing and ordering fractions. And it says, when comparing and ordering fractions, decimals, and percents, write the numbers as either all fractions, all decimals, or all percents, okay? And what that means is essentially you want it in the same form. You want all of your numbers in the same form when you go to order them so that you can actually order them and compare them, okay? So make sure you have that golden rule down for ordering and comparing fractions, decimals, percents, because that is key. They need to be in the same form. All numbers should be in the same form, okay? And that is either all fractions, all decimals, all percents. Let's look at an example. So it says comparing fractions, decimals, and percents. Which is greater, 3 over 20 or 16%? So let's write, to begin, we're going to write 3 over 20 as a percent, okay? That's our first step. So to do this, you could do it a couple different ways. First, if you have a calculator out, you could type into the calculator. I'm going to write these steps down for you. Type into calculator. 3 divided by 20. That's going to give you the decimal. Okay, so that's going to, 3 divided by 20 is going to give you 0.15, which then if you want to turn 0.15 into a percent, you can either multiply by 100 or you can just move the decimal point to the right 2 times. But that's going to give you 15%, okay? So that's the first way that you could do it. Turn that into a percent, okay? The other way that you could do it is you could write it 3 over 20, and you could just go back to our ratio tables. So remember, our percent always has 100 in the denominator. So how do we get from 20 to 100? You'd have to multiply by 5, which means you want to multiply the top by 5 as well. 3 times 5 would be 15. And remember, if it's 100 in the denominator, that top number is your percent, which means that it is 15%. Okay? So now we still need to compare them. So 3 over 20 is actually 15%. So which is greater? Well, 15% and 16%. 16% is greater. So I would do the greater than symbol. But remember, we're not comparing 15%, we're comparing 3 over 20. So it's important that you actually write 3 over 20 is less than 16%. And that is how we decide which one is greater. Okay, so again, we're just putting it in the same form and then just comparing it. Which one's greater? Let's look at this one. B, which is greater, 79% or 0.008? So let's write 79% as a decimal. So remember, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can either move the decimal point, which remember, it should be behind the 9. You can move it to the left 2 times. So to the left, and that would equal 0.79. Or you could divide 79 divided by 100, and that would also give you the decimal, which is 0.79. So either way works. So now let's compare it. We have 0.79 and we have 0.08. Well, I start by comparing these numbers. Which one's greater? The 7's greater, okay? So therefore, I know this one's going to be a bigger number. And remember, 0.79, it started as 79%. So I'm actually going to write it as 79% is greater than 0.08. And that is my comparison. Okay? So now what I want you to do is I would like you to compare these two down here. Okay, so on your own, I want you to decide which one is greater, 25% or 7 over 25. And then number 2, which is greater, 0.49 or 94%. Remember, they all need to be in the same form. So I would recommend turning them either all into percents or all into decimals. Okay? So go ahead, do these two on your own. And then once you pick your answer, then we will go over it as a class. Okay, go ahead, get started. Okay, so for number 1, which is greater, 25% or 7 over 25? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to do 7 divided by 25 in my calculator. So 7 divided by 25, that's going to give me its decimal. So the decimal is 0.28. So now if I want to turn this decimal into a percentage, I can either multiply by 100 or move it to the right, I'm just going to multiply by 100 to make it easier. And that's going to give me 28%. So when I go to compare these, 25% and 28%, I know that 28 is bigger than 25. So therefore, it's going to go that way. And remember, 28%, well, it actually started as 7 over 25. So I'm going to write it as 25% is less than 7 over 25. And that is my comparison for number 1. Okay, if we look at number 2, well, let's just turn 94% into a decimal. So remember, the decimal point's right after the 4. And to turn it into a decimal, you want to go to the left, and the decimal point would go there, 0.94. Or remember, you could also divide by 100, and that would also give you 0.94. So now let's compare 0.49 and 0.94. Which one's bigger? Hopefully you said that 0.94 is bigger. And remember, 0.94 started as 94%, so let's just write it that way. Is less than 94%. So we have compared both of those, and that is the answer. So the main gist of this section is make sure they're all in the same form and then just compare them. See which one's greater or less than. Okay, thank you for watching. Make sure you have this all down in your notes, and we'll start the Big Ideas assignment soon.